BlackRock is taking over the world, and no one is stopping them.
You think you choose the phone in your pocket, the medicine in your cabinet, the politician you vote for, your decisions, your reasons, your life. But behind almost every one of those choices sits a small set of companies you have barely heard of, doing one quiet thing very well, deciding where the world's money goes. The largest of them is BlackRock. It is not a household name, and that is by design. It manages roughly $11 trillion, money that belongs to retirees, governments, pension funds, sovereign wealth pools, and ordinary people through their 401ks. To put 11 trillion scale, if you spent $1 every second, it would take you over 30,000 years to spend a single trillion. BlackRock manages 11 of them. The figure is comparable to the annual economic output of the entire eurozone. What follows is a story of how a man fired in disgrace built the most consequential institution in modern finance, and why almost no one outside of finance can name the people who run it.
The global position we have, the role we have in global retirement, our role we have in investment technology.
Chapter 1. The Mistake That Built an Empire. In 1986, a 33-year-old trader named Larry Fink was the star of the investment bank First Boston. He had pioneered mortgage-backed securities, the same instruments that would later detonate the global economy in 2008, and he was netting his bank billions. Then in a single quarter, he lost $100 million. The interest rate model his desk relied on had failed. The position that should have been hedged was not. He was quietly pushed out. He took one lesson with him. Wall Street, he decided, did not actually understand the risks it was taking. It guessed, called the guess's experience, and prayed the music kept playing. In 1988, Fink and 7 co-founders launched what would become BlackRock, initially inside the Blackstone Group, later spun out and renamed. The pitch was different from anything else on the street. We will not predict the future. We will measure it. We will build a machine that calculates every plausible disaster before it happens, and we will sell access to that machine to anyone with money to manage. The world was about to be measured. Chapter 2. Aladdin, the measure of the world. Its name is Aladdin, asset, liability, debt, and derivative investment network. It runs in BlackRock's data centers, and it is the closest thing the financial system has to a shared nervous system. Aladdin reads decades of price history, corporate filings, currency movements, weather patterns, shipping routes, central bank language, and the quiet correlations between them. It runs continuous simulations, Monte Carlo paths to alternative futures, to estimate what your portfolio loses if oil spikes, if a regional war breaks out, if a major counterparty fails, if Chinese steel demand collapses. It does not know the future. It maps the shape of how the future could go wrong. What gives Aladdin its weight is not the algorithms, it is the customer list. Aladdin is licensed to other asset managers, to insurance companies, to pension funds, to sovereign wealth funds, and to several central banks. By 2024, the platform tracked or supported roughly $20 trillion of capital, a number that does not include the assets BlackRock manages itself. This is a part to sit with. A meaningful slice of the world's institutional money is being analyzed and risk managed through the same system. When that system says the same thing to enough customers at the same time, the customers can move in the same direction at the same time. That is not a conspiracy. That is a structural risk of shared infrastructure.
They should de-risk private finance. In other words, there should be ways that they can provide guarantees or risk sharing so that they can take kind of the first loss of an investment.
Chapter 3. The Proxy Empire. Now the part most coverage gets wrong. BlackRock does not own the $11 trillion it manages. The actual owners are pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, university endowments, insurance companies, and tens of millions of ordinary people through their retirement accounts. BlackRock holds the assets in trust, charges a small fee, and votes the shares on the owner's behalf. The last part is where the power lives. Through its index funds, BlackRock, together with Vanguard and State Street, sits among the top 3 shareholders of nearly every major public company in the United States: Apple, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Chevron, ExxonMobil. The three of them collectively hold positions large enough to swing most shareholder votes if they coordinate. They almost never coordinate publicly. They do not have to. Defenders make a real argument here. Low-cost index investing has saved ordinary investors billions in fees. And the alternative, a few wealthy active managers picking winners, has historically delivered worse returns to those investors. BlackRock votes proxies as a fiduciary with disclosed guidelines. None of that is wrong, but the consequence is still consequential. A handful of index providers now sit at the structural center of corporate governance for the entire public market. When Larry Fink sends his annual letters to CEOs telling them to focus on capital discipline or transition planning or political risk, the letter is not advice. It is a quiet signal from a shareholder large enough that companies do not ignore it. This is not a monopoly that can be sued. It is a concentration that emerged because passive investing won.
You developed a view on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and what is BlackRock doing about them?
Well, I believe in blockchains. We're looking at many blockchains.
Chapter 4. The Infrastructure Bet. Larry Fink does not look back. He looks at where the money will be in 10 years from now. His current bet is artificial intelligence, but not in the way most people think. Fink is not buying chatbots. He is funding the physical layer underneath them. In September 2024, BlackRock announced a partnership with Microsoft, MGX, and global infrastructure partners aimed at raising up to $100 billion to build the data centers and energy supply that AI requires. It is one of the largest infrastructure investment vehicles ever assembled. Fink's reasoning is simple. Whoever owns a compute and the power that runs a compute owns. Whoever owns a compute and the power that runs a compute owns a toll booth on every AI service for the next 20 years. The chips matter, the cooling matters, the grid connection matters, the LAN matters. He is not betting on which model wins. He is betting that they all need the same plumbing. Aladdin is being upgraded in parallel. Generative AI capability is being layered into the platform's risk models, not to predict markets, which remains hard, but to read the world faster. News, filings, satellite imagery, supply chain disruptions, sentiment. The old version of Aladdin measured what could go wrong. The new version is learning to notice what is changing. Chapter 5. The Crypto Pivot. In 2017, Larry Fink called Bitcoin an index of money laundering. It was the loudest dismissal from a major Wall Street figure that year. In 2024, BlackRock launched the iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT. Within 7 weeks, it became the fastest exchange trade fund in history to cross $10 billion in assets. By the end of 2024, it held tens of billions. BlackRock today is one of the largest single holders of Bitcoin in the world. What changed was not Larry Fink's view of Bitcoin. What changed was his view of the asset class. Fink's actual long-term bet is on tokenization, putting traditional assets like treasury bonds, corporate equity, commodities, and real estate onto blockchain rails so they can be settled instantly, fractionally, and around the clock. BlackRock's BUIDL fund, launched in 2024 on the Ethereum network, is the proof of concept, a tokenized treasury fund operated by BlackRock with the underlying assets held at BNY Mellon. If you believed crypto was about freedom from institutions, the institutional response is now visible. They are not destroying it, they are bringing it indoors. Chapter 6. The Rentier Economy. A common claim about BlackRock is that they are buying up single-family homes. That claim is largely false. It conflates BlackRock with Blackstone, a different company, and with specialized residential REITs that neither one fully controls. BlackRock's residential exposure is mostly mortgage-backed securities, not the houses themselves. The true story is bigger and slower moving. Across the last 15 years, institutional capital has migrated steadily into the assets that used to be the foundation of household wealth: multifamily housing, logistics warehouses, data centers, electricity grids, water systems, broadband, toll roads. BlackRock and its peers have built enormous infrastructure and private credit arms aimed precisely at these long-duration, cash-flow stable assets. The shift has consequences. When funds own the warehouse, the rental property, the broadband line, the data center, and the electricity that runs all of them, the world begins to look like a network of subscriptions. You pay rent for housing your parents would have bought. You stream music you would have owned. You lease software you would have purchased once. Your car comes with a monthly subscription for the heated seats already installed in it. This is not a BlackRock plot. It is a structural drift toward institutional ownership of cash-flowing assets, and BlackRock is the largest single beneficiary of it. Conclusion: the invisible quarterly. Larry Fink is not Elon Musk. He does not tweet, does not court fame, almost never appears on television. He prefers it that way. Real influence in his world is the kind people forget to notice. There is no master plan to control the world. There is something stranger and harder to name: a financial infrastructure that quietly absorbed more and more of the system, one fee at a time, until it became the system. We helped build it. We handed over our pensions, our savings, our defaults. We received cheaper investing, higher returns, and a kind of background stability we had never enjoyed before. We also gave away something we have not yet fully measured. Somewhere in a data center, a few seconds from now, Aladdin will run another batch of simulations. None of them will involve you specifically. All of them will involve people like you. The question worth asking is not whether to be afraid of the machine. The machine works. The question is, who gets to decide what the machine optimizes for, and on what timescale, and for whose benefit? That conversation is just starting. If you want to keep following it, subscribe.